reports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
Beautiful morning, a Friday morning, actually the last Friday in 2023. Is just super excited to be alive in the land of the living. For us, Atlantic Television Network at Non-Atlantic Blowout, which is a syndicated live program of the network where we hold conversation on special interest topics. We bring you news, events, and stories through correspondent reports, expert opinions, and stakeholders analysis. On the show today, we'll be doing a lot of retrospect, but on Anchor's chat, we'll have a chat on Niger State Government debunks reports on ban of alcohol, January. And then still in River State crisis and the developing stories, court stops INEC, PDP's action against defected lawmakers. In 2023, in retrospect, we have Edo State Governor Deputies Power Tosu telling Edo State we have Assembly halves Shaibu's office allocation. And in 2023, in retrospect, Mutfwang promised to end insecurity if elected governor. Now, in Plateau State killings, Governor Mutfwang cries to Tinubu for help. Still in Plateau State, action a Nigeria calls prosecution of Christmas Eve massacre. And in Nasarawa State, Shatima asks Nigerians to fight poverty. In 2023 retrospect, Nigeria's business environment for 2023. Our guest on the show today is Alabo Eugene Ode. He's a legal practitioner and a public affairs analyst. We also have Ene Eric Wifa, a public affairs analyst and lecturer with English Department, University of Port Harcourt. Now, I understand that we may be operating at different time zones, but that's good enough because you can watch us live from anywhere you are in the world on network.tv or join us live on our app, ATN Live. If you don't have that, relax. Just go to the App Store and you can download that. Also, you can join us live on Facebook and YouTube. We are Atlantic Television Network. Now, in all of this, you are welcome to run with us on the last Friday on Atlantic Blowout for 2023. We are super excited to be here this morning. So, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk about a bit of a retrospect into the issues of alcohol and all of the issues when it comes to the northern part of the country. Because Niger State Governor is saying, nah, we did not put embargo on alcoholic drink. But all of this will be after the break. Stay with us.
from the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on-the-spot news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today, only on ATN.
We are glad to have you back. I mean, Kingsley and I, we are glad to have you back on Atlantic Blowout. And it's time for Anchor's Charts. How have you been?
Fine.
I like the doctors did some things to your eyes.
Yes, a lot of chemicals and plenty light. I need it.
So it's not like they pour something, your eye drank the chemicals.
That's what I would call it, because it wasn't funny. It wasn't a fun experience.
But good to have you back.
Yeah,
good
at least now I think I can see the prompt a bit more clearly.
All right, everyone, let's have Anchor's Charts. So, Niger State Governor Umar Bago has debunked a report making the round on the alleged ban of alcoholic drinks in the state. Bago said this in a statement issued on Thursday. He said such a directive was neither issued by him nor his aides, urging the public to disregard the report emanating from social media and blogs. He said his attention has been drawn to a report making the rounds of some blogs claiming that the Niger State government has prohibited the sale of alcohol. He noted that such was said to have come through the state's liquor and licensing board, prohibiting alcohol in 9 local government areas of the state, including Suleja. Now, according to the statement, the governor has directed security agents to arrest the self-appointed secretary of the board by name Mohammed Ibrahim. He said the motives of the imposter and the reasons behind the pronouncement must be understood. You know, sometimes when you hear a state governor come out and make such statements, I like to chuckle a bit, and the reason is not far-fetched. He calls Mohammed Ibrahim an imposter. An imposter that has the audacity to make laws, or let's say his own laws, decide what he wants to do under a state where you're the governor. I find that hard to believe. And I will tell you why straight up. The reason why I say I find that hard to believe is that it only takes a mad person to stand up and start being that audacious. If you look at this, there's this police,
Sharia police.
Sharia police. No northern governor would claim ignorance of the Sharia police, their heads, their operations, and what they're about. And we know that on more than one occasion, this year alone, have seen the destruction of several, just like every other year. Destruction of several. You guys are taking the tax, the VAT or whatever from these drinks, and then you will destroy it and all of that. So I honestly think that northern governors, because the existence of Sharia police, which they know, some of them even have Sharia courts.
Of course they do.
Recognized by the Constitution of Nigeria, funded by Nigeria.
Yes.
So you cannot sit down as a governor and because whatever Mohammed Ibrahim carried out, it is the functions of the Sharia laws, which prohibits alcoholic beverages. So calling him an imposter, I'm like, excuse me.
Well, first of all, the use of the word imposter is really funny, because when you say somebody's an imposter, it means he's not the real deal. It means that he's saying that Mr. Ibrahim is not the real boss of the alcohol licensing organization in Niger State. You know, that's when you call somebody an imposter. It means he's impersonating. Okay, but if he's not impersonating, he's not an imposter. However, on the flip side, looking at the announcement, we saw it in dailies. If he says on blogs and social media, it's laughable.
Yeah.
For days on, it was on the pages of the national dailies.
Yes.
Now, but the deal here is, can these or should these agencies be putting out such strong announcements without their approval, express approval, by the state government?
I don't agree.
I do not think so.
I don't agree.
They shouldn't, especially when it comes to issues that are this sensitive. All right. The other question is, have we seen these kind of actions by heads of some of these bosses like this? Oh yes, we have.
Countless.
We have seen it. You know, I'm trying to defend the governor here.
Oh,
the governor may really.
thanks for being a gentleman.
Oh yeah, I mean, he may honestly have no knowledge about the announcement. I mean, he may honestly, right? Hold on. And I stand with the Niger State governor. he may honestly not have expressly approved it, right? And this fellow has put out the announcement to show some power. Now, the other issue here is for somebody to show such amount of power and back it up or threaten to back it up with action. It means also that probably previously he has had backing from the governor when he has taken such steps. So something must be feeding his fire.
Exactly.
Right.
Because Sharia, if he's coming out to say, if Governor Bago is coming out to say Sharia is not recognized in Niger State,
you know he cannot say that. You know he will not say that.
Then we can have it. Okay, we'll begin to have the conversation. Maybe that person is an imposter, but I find it a bit offensive on a more serious note right now that people who in leadership positions will fail to take responsibility where and when they are supposed to. And here is the thing. This announcement of destruction of or ban on alcoholic beverage, it's not news. I don't even live in northern Nigeria, but I know that this year we can count the number of times that the Sharia police have destroyed this and other issues. So if you are standing up as a governor to say, I don't agree with the ban of alcohol, be specific. Say it. I don't agree with the ban of alcohol.
But that's what he has said.
No.
By saying this fellow was not authorized.
Yeah, I'm coming to
no.
So I'm coming to something.
I stand with back with this.
That's fair. I stand with the Nigerian people.
I'm with the Nigerian people too.
But here's where I'm going to. You are the chief executive governor
of the state.
You are the chief security officer of the state.
Right.
You cannot come to the public place to say that one human being, an individual, woke up one morning and decided to implement Sharia law which bans alcoholic beverage.
Let me remind you of something that happened in River State. Do you remember the first tenure of the immediate past governor of River State?
Yes, on weekend.
Yes.
Okay.
You remember he fired his first commissioner for information?
Opnabo Inkotaria.
Yes, you remember?
Yes.
He was on an interview on radio and made some declarations or proclamations, as it were.
Yeah.
And the next day, the governor came out to say, that is not our stance. I didn't authorize that.
Guess what?
And he was fired and replaced.
Guess what?
Right.
That's ideal. That's
exactly what has happened here.
In Kotaria's case, he was an appointed official of government who went on air to misconstrue what the government of River State was saying about a particular subject matter.
Right.
But we are talking about an Ibrahim Suleiman, or an Ibrahim Muhammad, who is not an official of Niger State government.
He's an appointee. He heads an agency on behalf of the government.
He didn't even recognize that. The governor said he is an imposter.
That's what I'm saying. There's a wrong use of the word imposter because he recognized that he is the head of the alcohol and beverages licensing agency of the state.
No, see.
He went as far as calling him that.
No, see. He called him an imposter.
You're
It's possible.
You're holding so strongly on that word, imposter.
It's possible that he's not the one that appointed him. It's possible that he was heading that agency before he came into
Doesn't
power.
make him an imposter.
Good. Now, my cross with all of this is a simple fact that Northerners consume alcoholic beverages.
Of course they do.
Now,
That's without.
here is
without doubt.
the thing. I know I have friends. Some of them, yes, their religion forbids it. But it's a culture and a tradition. They pipe a lot. Because their environment is, like in Just for instance, no, but like in Just
Add it
for
to my
instance,
vocabulary. I'll use it tomorrow.
in Just for instance, you understand? I have friends, they will tell you they start piping at a very young age. They drink, they smoke.
That's another word.
It's an old English
I'm
quaffing.
adding
Get
to my
serious.
vocabulary. I'll use it on Monday morning.
Get serious. so here's the thing. So, you know, when you put all of this side by side, you ask yourself, there is the cultural aspect of this lifestyle.
Yeah.
Then there is the religious aspect of this lifestyle. It's like the average Muslim would not eat pork meat.
Right.
So it's
It
like
doesn't,
saying,
it doesn't mean they don't eat pork.
it doesn't mean that every northerner, residents, natives, as a matter of fact, in northern Nigeria don't consume pork meat.
Right.
But it is religiously forbidden. I'm naturally allergic to pork meat, but I enjoy it. They like the taste. It's like saying, I won't give it to Kingsley because I don't understand that lifestyle, that idea of governing people or doing things. So what I expect Governor Bago to do is, what is the stance of the government on alcoholic beverage? If someone is heading an agency and there is a room to say, we don't do this in Niger State, and the man, Ibrahim Mohammed, decides to act on that, and the governor comes out to say, you're an imposter, we didn't send you to do that. That is not ideal. You don't eat pork meat. People eat pork meat. Their religion don't forbid it. Yours forbid it. They should respect you. You should respect them. That is what a civilized society should be about.
No, that is why.
Because right now, Governor Bago didn't say we don't allow alcoholic beverage or we allow it. His statement didn't address that.
First off, see the interesting scenario. The fact that there is a licensing agency means it means they recognize
the control of alcoholic
yes,
beverage.
it means they recognize that there are consumers of alcohol in their state. It means they recognize that there are people who are not Muslims. It means
I'm
coming.
Core Muslims that are just Muslims by tradition.
I'm coming. It also means there are people, whether Muslims or not, who consume alcohol. Now, off the top of my head, if there's a regulatory agency, I'm saying it means they want to control the proliferation. In what areas can you consume alcohol?
Exactly,
Do you
exactly.
And
that is the angle we expected
how much
the governor
alcohol do they want to have moving into their state?
or in some local governments.
Yes.
Like they said, about 8 or 9 of them.
Yes, that's a regulatory agency. That's what they do. Saying
but
saying there's an outright ban is a farce.
on those 9 LGAs.
It's a farce. Now, that's why I say I stand with the governor. Because if there is a regulatory agency and he has not scrapped it, it means he has not said alcohol cannot be consumed in my state.
Neither did he
whatever
say,
part of the state
neither
it is.
did he say in this address, in this press release, that alcoholic beverage can be consumed in the states.
He didn't necessarily have to say it verbatim.
Why not?
Because if he has called the fellow an imposter and said that announcement
He's
is
not an imposter.
Now you're on Bagu's side.
No, I'm not on his side.
The deal here is
Ibrahim Mohammed is not an imposter.
See where I'm going to. If the governor has come out to say, this fellow is an imposter, that's one. 2, he has said, the state government did not authorize such announcements.
what did the
That
state
means
government
the
authorize?
state government did not put out any announcement. It's what he has said.
It's just like going back to what you
If he
said
has-
for the
if-
former
hold on,
governor of
hold
Rivers
on.
State.
If the state government has not put out any announcement, it means maintain status quo.
No, but what is status quo? That's the
Status quo
issue.
is check your alcohol.
No, but you see, if there are terms on the Ibrahim Mohammed's reference of job reference to say this is what needs to be done.
Right.
If the governor did not authorize that, you can do what Yesawike did, fire him.
Probably he
And
will in the
state
coming
clearly,
days.
this is what the state's position on this is. There are 9 local governments where we have had issues of alcoholic beverages and its consumption. It's creating room for communal crisis, and we are addressing it, but we will come out with what the state stand on this is. Because he didn't say anything. The only thing he did was to throw Ibrahim Mohammed under the bus. That's the only thing he did. You're an imposter. I didn't say that. So what did you say?
I believe that the state's position on alcohol consumption or not will be contained in the laws that set up the
governor
agency.
should have made that clear.
No, he doesn't
That
have,
is
he
his
doesn't-
primary
he doesn't-
responsibility.
He doesn't have to come out to say
Ibrahim
you
Mohammed.
the limit allowed is 12 crates of alcoholic beverage.
No, it's
or
not
2
even
cartons.
that. It's not even that. He could just say, listen, clearly for Ibrahim Mohammed to take this stand, to make this announcement about these 9 LGAs, there is clearly an issue. Now, but it's
That
about
may
coming
not have
out.
been raised by the state government.
Exactly. So there is about coming out to say what exactly, okay, first of all, invite the person. What happened, or send some of your men to go speak with this Ibrahim man and say, okay, what exactly happened? Find out what happened. Because throwing him under the bus has not addressed the issue.
See,
calling him an imposter has not addressed the issue.
For me, throwing him under the bus, calling him an imposter,
I don't know
is
you.
very, very correct.
What makes it
because
correct?
if there are
someone,
issues, hold on,
someone on the
come
state government's
on.
payroll.
Hold on. Let me land. Because if there is something really, really sinister going on, and you are saying, let's control it.
Is that
Something,
what he's saying?
something this sensitive. I believe that Mr. Ibrahim Mohammed should have gone to the governor to say, Ranka Dede, these are the issues we're experiencing in these 9 local governments with alcohol or whatever it is.
So
we
if
believe,
that
we
he
believe
failed to do
whatever,
that means that he's an imposter.
Yes, it's insubordination. It's absolute
No,
insubordination.
I agree. Insubordination does not make someone an imposter.
I think the
So
first
long
thing
as-
I addressed was the word imposter. It's a wrong use of the word
He's not an imposter.
because he's an appointee. So he can't
is
be an
on the
imposter.
government's payroll.
Exactly.
He's recognized by the state.
Exactly.
If you did something wrong, like the former governor of Rivers State, fire him, state what the state's position is, and let the states know that this is the government position. Oh, there are issues with this this alcoholic beverage thing. We are addressing it, but we are not putting a ban on it.
Well, I disagree with you on this one.
That's
Because
fair.
First off,
I'm on the side of the people. You're on the side of
governor has
Bango.
used. I agree that the governor has used the wrong word. I stated that from the onset, calling him an imposter because he's your appointee. Whether he was there before your tenure or you appointed him, he's on your payroll, so you cannot call him an imposter. If he's done something out of turn, which is clear, like the governor has said, this announcement was unauthorized, you can sanction him, you can suspend him, you can fire him.
And he shouldn't address and tell the states the exact position.
On the state's position on alcohol consumption, coming out to say, I didn't ask this man to put out this information, tells us the state's position. The state's position is, I didn't ask him to ban alcohol.
You are deducing that from what he said.
It is what it is. It's English language.
All right, that's what you can
You
do.
have an option of white shirt or black shirt. I didn't ask you to wear a white shirt. Means you can wear a black shirt.
And that's what you can do on Anchor's Chat this morning, everyone. We'll come back to you after the break.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. only on ATN.
Christmas season! Hooray! A time to make merry with loved ones, a time to give thanks, and a time to be a blessing. May your holiday season be filled with joy, laughter, and beautiful moments. From all of us in Morrison Communications Limited, Wish 99.5 FM and Atlantic Television Network, we wish you a Merry Christmas full of amazing experiences. Cheers to a beautiful year end.
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
We wish you a Merry Christmas.
It's Christmas season! Hooray! A time to make merry with loved ones, a time to give thanks, and a time to be a blessing. May your holiday season be filled with joy, laughter, and beautiful moments. From all of us in Morrison Communications Limited, Wish 99.5 FM and Atlantic Television Network, we wish you a Merry Christmas full of amazing experiences. Cheers to a beautiful year end. Beautiful year end. Christmas season! Hooray! A time to make merry with loved ones, a time to give thanks, and a time to be a blessing. May your holiday season be filled with joy, laughter, and beautiful moments. From all of us in Morrison Communications Limited, a Merry Christmas full of amazing experiences. Cheers to a beautiful year end.
Now, we want to quickly welcome our very own friend, Ene Arikibifa. Good to have you on the last Friday show of 2023 on Atlantic Blowout.
Great to be here. Compliments of the season to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kingsley. Thanks, Vivian.
You're welcome.
Let's do a bit of a reversal. Let's start this story from one of the critical aspects of Nigeria for 2023. So, over to you, Kingsley.
Nigeria's 2023 business environment faced several challenges from uncertainties following CBN's twin naira policy that plunged several SMEs into unprecedented downturn, to election outcomes and topping that with federal government's policy directions that led to several exodus of companies leaving Nigeria, and President Tinubu's announcement of subsidy removal, which heightened the already tensed business environment. No doubt 2023 underscored a tumultuous landscape for Nigerian businesses, showcasing exits across various sectors, from tech startups to multinational corporations. The exodus highlighted the profound impact of macroeconomic hurdles on the nation's business community. Here, a list of companies that exited Nigerian market this year. In an overview of significant exits, we have Jumia Foods, a mobile app-based platform for restaurant discovery and ordering. Exit date was December. Reason: pulling out of the food delivery business across African countries, citing the difficulty of the sector and a desire to focus on profitable ventures. Procter & Gamble, an American multinational consumer goods corporation. Exit date December. Reason: dissolution of ground operations, reverting to an import-only business model due to Nigeria's macroeconomic challenges and forex difficulties. Bolt Food, the food delivery arm of an Estonian ride-hailing company, Bolt. Exit date November. Reason: strategic decision to optimize resource utilization and streamline overall efficiency. Equinor, an international energy company. Exit date November. Reason: divestment from Nigeria's petroleum industry, selling its stakes to Chapel Energies, aligning with the focus on international oil and gas portfolio. Sanofi Aventis Nigeria Limited, a French pharmaceutical company. Exit date November. Reason: ceasing operations in Nigeria and adopting a third-party distribution business model similar to GlaxoSmithKline and P&G. Nabisco Biscuits, an indigenous Nigerian biscuits company. Exit date October. Reason: shutdown of multi-million-dollar plant in Ogun State, with plans to sell the company and focus on other business areas. 54Gene, a genomics startup. Exit date September. Reason: closure after a tumultuous year marked by leadership changes, staff complaints, and legal issues, despite raising $45 million in funding. GlaxoSmithKline, Consumer Nigeria, a British multinational pharmaceutical and biotech company. Exit date August. Reason: forex challenges disrupting operations, leading to a transition to a third-party desired distribution mode. LazaPay, a Web3 and crypto payment company founded by 21-year-old Emmanuel Njoko. Exit date April. Reason: inability to raise funds, leading to the shutdown of the Web3 and crypto payment company, operational for only 2 years. Now, this information, of course, is courtesy of Business NG.
Okay, let me quickly jump in here, Ine. I saw this story from Business NG yesterday, and I was asking myself, some of them were not even aware. We knew about Procter & Gamble, we knew about GlaxoSmithKline and all of that, but we didn't even know how bad it is.
Nabisco.
This is, see, this is a childhood brand. Nabisco Biscuit is a childhood brand that we all enjoyed. In fact, it was a big name in advertisements growing up in this country. But somehow, just like GlaxoSmithKline, just like Procter and Gamble, growing up as a child, when they buy you a clothes or any wearable item, for instance, that has Procter and Gamble, you have a gift item, it was a name that was synonymous to something, when these other big brands today were not even in existence. But somehow, now this is actually a compilation of the ones we know. The question is, how many more are out there that didn't make it to the newsstand that we are not even aware of? The hit on SMEs alone. I remember that in January, the CBN twin policy period, there are shops that these are regular shops where you can go in to buy some things. They are all shut down. Like without notice, without warning, they are all gone. This is 2023 wrapping up in about 36 hours time. We'll be done with 2023. Do you think that the government of Nigeria understand the impact of this? If we talk about GlaxoSmithKline, for instance, the impact of drug, the cost of basic drug, of the counter drug right now, over-the-counter drug, sorry. Do you understand the government understand the impact of this to the Nigerian population?
Well, if it does, it's not showing it. There is no evidence that the government does understand the emergency of the situation, how desperate the situation is. But I think this didn't begin yesterday. It's been with us for a long while now. There's been a gradual divestment from the Nigerian economy for a couple of reasons. Perhaps because of the gradual nature of it, we didn't take note while it was going on. And usually, because it didn't involve some of the mega companies, Nigerians didn't also take note. Remember Michelin, remember Dunlop, yeah. So it's been a process. And I mean, it's in the nature of things. That's the nature of capital. Capital goes where it's likely going to yield more returns on investment. And it seems that Nigeria is in that destination for now. I mean, there are a lot of things businesses are contending with. I mean, we have a massive infrastructure deficit. So if you're coming to do business in Nigeria, you're supposed to provide the support services like, good roads for effective distribution. You're supposed to bother about security. In all of this, despite all of this, you still will need to pay tax to the government. So you're wondering what's the use of your tax. And then in some cases, you have to contend with the host communities who sometimes feel that the companies have a responsibility to usurp functions that ought to be performed by government. So things that they should ask of their government or rather ask of companies operating in their communities. So when you have all of these things to contend with, the tendency is that it's going to affect your bottom line adversely. And of course, no company wants to stay in business and record losses. Once you notice that, oh, it's more profitable to do business in another country. Indeed, we know of airlines that, perform their most basic services in neighboring countries because it's more economical doing it that way. So, I mean, it's something the government needs to think about seriously. Apparently, it doesn't seem the government is thinking about it that way. And part of the problem, I think, arises from the fact that in an ideal situation, economic policies should drive politics. Unfortunately, in our situation, we find we are confronted with cases where, economic policies are determined by political ends. So, for example, if you take the Naira denomination thing, the Naira redesign policy, yeah, which contributed a lot when you look at the reasons cited to some of the companies. I mean, for the inability to access cash and all that. So you're asking yourself, what's the economic sense behind that, other than the fact that, as one of the presidential candidates cried out at the time, it seemed to have been targeted at some candidates. And in fact, the president himself did say that it was aimed at, reducing the monetization of politics. And you're asking yourself, if you have to demonetize politics, is it going to be at the expense of the economy? We know of several MSMEs that led to death as a result of that ill-thought-out policy. So I think going forward, we need to begin to, work towards a situation where economic policies determine, economic thinking determine political actions and not the reverse.
Okay, if we're looking at this from the reverse, if you may, another aspect of this profile of company that exited is the fact that we don't have a minister of Finance. We have different ministries actually has been occupied. But what I find interesting, you mentioned one of the presidential candidates talking about how to get out of this quagmire we find ourselves economically even before the removal of fuel subsidy. So now, if you take it from the first announcement that was made while he was taking the narration, he talked about the first quarter of the year seemed like we're having an upheaval, but as soon as we're going to the second quarter, with the announcement of subsidy removal, for instance, it kind of nosedived the economy to its lowest ebb. And unfortunately, you discover that people are not still at the point, the government basically still are not the point where they recognize that there is a problem and there is need to fix it. Here is why I say that. President Tinubu talked about 50% distribution of reduction of the price of transportation. A lot of people are saying, I thought this was for real. We're looking for those who have used it. I'm still asking, let's at least look at the merits of that announcement. Policies, statements thrown into the Nigerian space or public without proper articulation of that policy. We have a better ado with the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and what have you, talking about unable to give us a social register or tell us we have gotten a comprehensive social register for 2 states. We're working on 34 states, for instance, you know. Ministry of Education coming out to tell us, oh, listen, the school feeding program will now be in our ministry. And, you know, just like that, stories. As we speak, our debt profile is over 80 trillion as we speak. And that is for the first, second, and third quarter. We have not added the last quarter of the year. We saw governors travel from the different states to pay homage to the president in Lagos State. Even the governor who had his state on fire at Christmas Eve. There are too many indices that you ask yourself, what is the plan to get out of this situation? What is the plan to provide ease of doing business for these people? What is the plan for SMEs? Look at the Nigerian banking system, making life difficult for people as much as they can find the opportunity to do that. Are we again, from the government to the people, to the business owners, do we have the capacity to say that we are ready to get out of this quagmire called Nigerian business environment?
I think with proper thinking, we can get out of this situation. I mean, government exists to solve problems, and this is a problem. It's a challenge that any government that is serious can handle. You've itemized the different ministries established by this government. And I mean, if you go by the strength of ministries, I think the government seems to be serious. Unfortunately, we are not seeing results. I mean, there's a Ministry of Trade and Industry, there's a Ministry of Finance. I mean, there are agencies like SMEDAN and so on and so forth. Now, one expects that all of these agencies, all of these ministries, all of these departments of government would be geared towards doing something. I think the main problem here, and this is my reading of the situation, is that we don't seem to have a comprehensive economic plan. So we are simply just freestyling, for want of a better expression. So as problems arise, we just possibly at best we throw money at those problems. We don't seem to have a clear-cut economic program to say, okay, this is a clear-cut economic vision to say, okay, in 5 years, this is where we want to take the Nigerian economy, and this is how we intend to do it. This is how we intend to create synergy amongst the different components of the economy. We don't seem to have that. So you even find instances where if you do a proper analysis of some of the policy statements emanating from different ministries, you find that some of them even seem to be contradictory. They don't seem to be pursuing a single end. So that seems to be the problem. I mean, I don't know who the present chief economic advisor is, but you see that the president has an entire list of image makers, and it's been a problem here in this country. We seem to expend so much energy trying to market the government without realizing that the best way to market the government is by its actions, by its performance. So you have a senior special advisor on communication, you have a senior special advisor on new media. All of these people are supposed to project the image of the government. That's what we're interested in, the perception, but we don't even think of the substance of governance. So we don't have an economic team that is, commensurate with the nature of our economic problems. So,
quick one. Do you think that a sane country, government, administration that totally understands what the level of how bad this quagmire that we find ourselves in looks like right now? Maybe I should just take this to Alabo quickly. Do you think that we should be talking about tactical economic summits with the relevant stakeholders on board to deal with this issue?
Vivian, I don't think we lack the manpower to drive our economy, to transform our economy. We've had people like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala pilot the affairs of our economy. We've had the other lady who was at the World Bank before.
Yes.
We've had brilliant people who have manned our economic team in the past. And I believe that these individuals had formulated a blueprint that would have transformed our national economy and set us on a path of sustainable development. But unfortunately, what we have seen over the time is the lack of willingness of successive governments to continue on the path of steady progress. What we see people do is once they come into power, they jettison what they met on ground. They want to establish, they want to stamp their own authority. They want to own their own ideas and ideologies. They want to start something new. You know, it doesn't matter what the other administration has spent so far to develop those blueprints for them. They feel if they advance it, if they take it forward, they won't take the credit. So what we see these people do is try to start something that they will own and will be named after them. They want to remain, you know, in the consciousness of citizens to say, okay, this was this man's program and he did well. And the funny thing is that most times they set up these things and they don't stay long enough to implement them. If you go to Japan, you have 100 years economic blueprints. Successive governments come and continue from where the other one. Government, they say, is a continuum. So I don't think the problem we have is lack of these initiatives. We have them, the documents are there. Anybody can just go in there and drive them if they want to.
Okay, so like I asked Alabo, just to get your view on this, are we at the, don't you think rather, we should be talking about tactical economic summits that by the governments having relevant stakeholders? Like you said, we're not lacking manpower or the right stakeholders to address our economic goals. That should be having conversations on the way forward out of this quagmire, economically speaking.
Well,
I haven't heard of any economic summit by this government since they came into power.
I'm always skeptical when Nigerians talk about summits, whether they're economic or political, because they always tend to lead nowhere. I mean, I'll give you a catalog of all kinds of summits we've had and, you know, talk shops, but they led nowhere. Remember Justice Nikki Toby and his political reforms committee, and then the one set up by President Goodluck Jonathan, and then there are people who have seen the report and they say it's comprehensive enough to transform Nigeria, not just in the realm of the economy, but also in other aspects of our national life. Part of the problem is that we set up these talk shops when it's politically convenient, and we then refuse to follow through when their findings are released to us. And I think Alabo essentially hit the nail on the head when he talked about the fact that we don't continue with policies. But even that, I mean, I'm willing to grant them that. So a new government can come in and say, we are setting a new policy. But please, for the love of God, follow through with that policy. Administrations all over the world want to be recognized for something. I mean, we know Obama with Obamacare. Biden seemed to be interested in debt forgiveness for students' loan. So you can come up with those things and you follow through. Unfortunately, what happens in this instance is that we are just interested in the slogans. So one government says, oh, we are interested in needs, national economic empowerment development strategy. That was what Obasanjo was known for. Yar'Adua came up with his 7-point agenda. Jonathan was transformation. Buhari was simply change. Now it's renewed hope. What exactly do these things mean? Where do these things intend to take Nigeria to? We are not seeing all of that. We are not seeing what seems like a comprehensive plan. I mean, nations ought to be strategic. The economy is not something you, like I said, it's not something you run on a freestyle basis. You just, you know, attack problems the way they are. You anticipate problems, you move to forestall them. And remember, we started this by talking about the massive outflow of capital in this country. I mean, the country is hemorrhaging. Unfortunately, we don't seem to understand that this is a big problem. For each of those companies that left this country, you can be sure that a substantial number of Nigerians have been thrown back into the job market. We are talking about a situation where unemployment figures are at an all-time high. So we don't seem to understand the extent of the problem. And frankly, I think we shouldn't even dissipate energies now calling on, I mean, having a conference, because we've seen instances where these things are done and they don't lead anywhere. If the government is desirous of doing this, it can do it. I think perhaps the root of all this is the fact that people come into public office in this country and they are more interested in the convenience that public office confers on them rather than the responsibility. And that's why you see sociologically too, I mean, we are now culturally wired in towards a thought pattern where if somebody gets an appointment into public office, we congratulate the person. Actually, public office is supposed to be something that you need to roll up your sleeves and go into. It's supposed to be something that confers tremendous responsibility on people. We should pity them. Unfortunately, because of the way we think around this country, once somebody is appointed into any public office, we then celebrate because we know he's going there to quote unquote enjoy himself.
All right.
Now, let me quickly shoot this one at Alamo. If you look at the list of companies we have rolled out, and you look at the reasons why they have left, one item ranks top. Access to funding. Their funds, by the way, they are not asking you for loans, forex, and monies to run their businesses in Nigeria. Would you say that Tinubu's declarations that the scarcity of funds was not real? Now, because it is on record that as at October 2023, the amount of money in circulation is equivalent to the amount of money that was in circulation before the Naira redesign was announced, which led to withdrawal of funds from the system. Now, what that implies, like the government says, like the federal government says, is that there are people who are hoarding cash to cause this artificial scarcity that we have experienced between February and now. So it's not a case of monies not pushed out. It's a case of people have what's the word now? Amassed the monies and have kept them in holding. And not just Naira, also Forex. So that's why the government now says in 2024 we're particularly coming at these people. You know, the last time we spoke to Vivian, I said, if the government says we are coming at these people, it means they have a list. And I believe Nigeria, believe the Nigerian government has enough intelligence to have such a list. Would you say that's a right move? Will it resolve the problem?
I think you have answered the question inside your question. This is because it is the government, it is the role and the responsibility of the government to monitor the fiscal policy which they implement. Okay, it comes all the way from the central bank down to the lowest microfinance banks. So to say, for them to say, to identify the problem means that the solution lies right in their hands. So what are you waiting for? You've already isolated and identified the problem. What are you waiting for?
Okay.
Wield the big stick. Whoever is hoarding, that person should be made known.
Who are you wielding the big stick?
Exactly. So, except they are telling us that they are complicit to what is going on. Otherwise, this is, in fact, there is complete dereliction of duty. If the president says he knows what the problem is, and the problem is still festering, and he says it is artificial, my brother, it's not artificial. Go to all the banks now. You won't find Naira. I'm talking about Naira. I'm not even talking about dollar. I'm talking about Naira. The common man on the street, the ATM operators, it's from the ATM operators, the POS operators that you know that there's scarcity of funds. For every 5,000 Naira now, you have between 500 to 600 Naira before you can access 5,000 Naira.
Hasn't this taken us back to where we left off early part of this year?
Artificial. It's not superficial. The people are feeling the pinch directly. And so if a government comes out to say that they know where the problem lies, it stands to reason that, and they decide not to do anything about it, it shows that they are complicit in what is going on. Now, apart from that, I wanted to also say that apart from the fact that there's lack of access of funds to run businesses, cost of running business in Nigeria, we've always said this time and time again, is this country is the most expensive country to run any business all over the world. So I think government needs to bridge that gap. We've had governments come out to talk about small and medium scale entrepreneurship programs and all those things to help small businesses and all that. At the end of the day, it ends on the paper. It doesn't translate to people actually feeling the pinch. The funny thing is that these monies are appropriated. So where do they go?
All right, that's a big question we'll have to leave for the government to answer. From the twin policy of the CBN to early this year that saw a lot of SMEs nosediving and disappearing from the surface, to the announcement of subsidy removal and the lack of forex to fund their businesses, and several others have dealt the Nigerian business environment a major blow. The question is this government prepared, know how to get us out of this quagmire economically? We have no idea. We'll leave that answer for them as we wrap up on the issues around businesses for this year on the show. But now, the Rivers State Governor, Siminalayi Fubara, has promised to allocate the new but yet to be allotted stalls at the Rumuwoji, popularly called My One Market, to the bona fide owners soon. Governor Fubara gave the assurance that the My One Market premises while kickstarting the distribution of bags of rice and other gift items to traders in designated regular markets. Governor, represented by Chijioke Ihunwo, the chairman of National Youth Council of Nigeria, Rivers State's capital and South Zone, said the state government is determined to remove any of difficulty that traders experience while conducting their businesses in the state. Governor Fubara said when the stalls in the new structure at the Rumuwoji market will be reallocated, only traders and not politicians will benefit. The governor also assured of measures seeking to curb the multiple levies that traders are made to pay and urged the traders to work with their leadership in reporting such extortions for appropriate attention. Moving forward, he also said that Association of Nigeria, the Reformed Traders Association of Nigeria, Eddie Brighton noted as an unusual the gift that Governor Fubara has sent to traders to spice up their end of the year celebrations, and thanked him for promising to allocate the market stalls to real traders. Some of the beneficiaries of the gift items thanked the Governor Fubara for demonstrating the best quality as father of the state to have extended such gestures to them. Well, the event was also used to inaugurate some executive officers for the Rumuwoji and the market.
When you're talking about people, you mention traders. Traders. 1 billion naira for traders. That's empowerment.
Well, I'm feel happy. If they are happy, we say God continue to lift him. God help him. He will rule well.
Now, I don't know why my colleague is laughing at me here. And now we have Yesumike completing the market. I think it was in his first tenure. Yet, it wasn't released to those. At some point, we heard, oh, the money allotted for this is quite high and all of that. A bit of a retrospect still on this issue of market. Then, at some point, while people were waiting for him to release these shops to people, Sokoto, a popular market in Sokoto, was raised down in an inferno. I don't know if it was an asset, but it was an inferno that raised down the market. And then the governor was had to have distributed 500 million to the Sokoto people to help them rebuild their market. And then he spent the rest of his tenure in office and left, and these shops are still there. Now, what has been termed the people's governor? Siminalayi Fubara. Following recent week's distribution of his own rice at Christmas to the people in the 23 local government, thousands of bags. I don't know why he's shaking his head. After a little bit of retrospect here, and now he goes to the market.
I can see what you're doing.
I don't know what he's talking about. I'm only doing my job. He goes to the market after the Christmas celebration, after the 100,000 to civil servants. The local government came up to say, "You think you're the only one that has money to give? Well, giving our people some money too." Also distributed their own rice, of course. And then the next thing we saw is he didn't use. That's okay. The Chijioke Ihunwo, the same man who was at the government house, warning him, he did not obey this 8-point agenda, was seen the one speaking for the governor while he was distributing the rice. He was supposed to be here, but unfortunately he's out of the state. Now, what we want to find out, if you can, basically, what are we looking at here?
Well, they say every cloud has a silver lining. I think if there's one silver lining in the face-off between Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his benefactor and predecessor, Barrister Nyesom Wike, this must be it. It seems to me that both politicians have gone on a charm offensive, and it's good for the Rivers people. At this rate, we might as well say, let the feud continue. Because, I mean, people who ordinarily would not come to the level of the people are now going to the people, wooing the people, talking to people. But more seriously, I'm interested in the market and what is going on there. I mean, the incident in that market occurred way, if I remember correctly, before the one at the Fruit Garden Market at Kaduna Street. Yes. That is behind us already. Sorry, economic activities have returned there now. One would expect that what is good for one market should also be good for the other. The earlier the government does this, the better. I mean, it doesn't enhance city planning when you have people trading all over the place, the streets, everywhere, and then, it obstructs traffic, and then some people even, put themselves at risk trading rights in places where vehicles ply. So I think if the government can settle this matter once and for all, allocate those tolls to those who deserve them at a reasonable price, not at a cutthroat price. I mean, one way they can do it, which has been the case in the past, is that you price it beyond the reach of the traders, and then third parties will come and rent this, buy up this, and then resell to the traders, or possibly lease to the traders at further exorbitant rates. Of course, what happens is that, what will happen is that in the long run, all of those costs will be transferred to those who will come to the market to buy products. So in a way, I think it's a good thing, all told, that this is happening. Whatever the motive is, whether it's altruistic or whether it's simply in the spirit of the face-off between the governor and his benefactor, it's all good. But I think it's about time we got serious and then put these things behind us. And then we should also think of protecting markets. I mean, it's a good thing this year we didn't see it happen, but once we get to this time, it's usually within these seasons. The excuse is usually the Hamatan, and then some people are negligent and then they leave electrical appliances on in their shops. It's a good thing we didn't record anyone this year, but I think so far it's going well.
All right. So Alabo.
Okay. Well,
we saw, I'm coming. I don't know why Kingsley's looking at me like that, but I'm going to ask my question back to me. We saw Chijioke Hunwo with the thousands of young persons besieged government house. That was a week today.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a week today. Saying, Mr. Governor, we don't know what you're doing. We see Eye Edison is our speaker. That 8-point agenda is not constitutionally binding. Thou shalt not keep to it. And all of those threats, after those threats, the same Chijioke Hunwo is the one speaking for the governor before
but 2 days, sorry to cut you short, but 2 days ago he was almost crying and tendering apologies to the FCC minister for all he said.
Who is that Chijioke?
Yes, pleading for forgiveness and being accepted back into the kingdom.
You see, I don't know what we're dealing with here, but is Governor Fubara pulling the wool off the face, from what my colleague said now, and from his Christmas Day message, and all of these that seem to be panning out right? Is he pulling the wool off our faces, or is there something else that we should critically be looking at?
I'm seeing a young man who is very cunning, and positively cunning, not negative. Positively cunning is someone who.
But cunning is an art.
Yes, maybe because of what he said when he was campaigning, that accountants don't talk, they act. So I think we should be looking more at his actions than his words. He might just be saying things to sound politically correct, to serve some certain political interests. But we should just be looking at his action to actually know what he's saying. Because the man has said, I'm not a talker, I'm a doer. And what he has done by some of his actions has really shown that this man is really a man of action. By releasing bursary to students, something that has not been done for over 8 years, by giving Christmas bonuses to civil servants, something that has not been done for many years.
Over 16 years.
And opening of this My One market, which has been the talking point all through the administration of Nyesom Wike. Not just the My One market, other infrastructure that were built and completed by government closed up until when the former administration wound up. I believe, just like Wike himself, when Wike took over, the first thing he did, of course, you remember that the courts were shut for almost about a year plus. The first thing he did was to open the courts, and those things endeared him in the hearts of Rivers people. So the governor is stealthily, cunningly warming himself into the hearts of Rivers people, and that is what is most important, that the people accept you. You have been able to open up the people's hearts to accept you, and you start leveraging on that to build your own political fortress, as it were, not minding whatever is happening all around. It's quite funny that I saw former governor still buying rice. We've passed that stage of, is he campaigning, is he coming back? I don't understand.
But Samson Mulaye Fubara bought rice
It's quite ridiculous.
Well, I think he's within his rights to share rice.
we know in politics.
In
politics, when you start sharing rice,
I wish I got.
It's usually prelude to
yes,
something.
when you start sharing in politics, the political arena, when you start sharing rice, there's a language. There's people understand it in a certain way. You're trying to do something. We know what you're trying to do.
Especially when it is not one of your traits.
Exactly. You're not a rice distributor.
Maybe he's trying to give us rice so we can accept him back.
For what? Accepting. He's the minister of FCT. He should go and share the rice in the FCT.
I think it's down to that thing about public acceptance.
No, the governor, see, this is the governor's immediate constituencies, Rivers State. So if the governor is sharing rice to his people, his immediate constituency.
The minister is also protecting his structure.
The constituency of the FCT minister is FCT. He should go and share the rice in the FCT.
I think it's a battle for the hearts and minds of Rivers people.
Let me speak my mother tongue. Please, you should bring the rice and share in Rivers State.
I mean, Rivers State is still his home. Even if it's the FCT.
Oh, yeah, charity begins at home.
His home is Rumekpurikom, not Rivers State.
But he has structures in Rivers State.
His structure is now the structure of the new governor.
I wouldn't mind receiving a bag of rice from Inyesom Wike, also receiving a bag from Simena Lai Fubara, and receiving a bag from my local government chairman. It's a win-win situation for those who receive it. So please, we need more of these political juggernauts.
On a lighter note, as they distribute rice, let them also distribute the other things that come with rice. Rice isn't just eaten raw.
Tomatoes.
Exactly.
But it's a staple meal. It's a staple food that should be in the house.
Like you said, I think Rivers people are enjoying the food. Let the food continue.
As Governor Wike is protecting his structures in this state.
And people are benefiting from that.
And Governor Simlaye Fuwara is ensuring that his people are also protected and provided for. Rivers people are
cashing out.
Now, in the spirit of opening up the Rumuwoji market, what's your take on the Songhai farm situation, the fish farms in Buguma, as well as the model schools that were also built by the former governor?
That's what I'm saying, that the present governor seemed to be more of a doer. We saw that, I think, it was a week before this crisis exploded in our faces.
He was at the Songhai farm.
He went to the Songhai farm. Those are investments, those are things that were put on ground for Rivers people. You can imagine the ripple effect if that Songhai farm is allowed to function.
Again,
it will industrialize that area because of, see the raw material, those raw materials, it's not just the banana. People just look at banana.
No, there's a lot going on in Songhai farm.
Banana is beyond just the banana you're talking about. Yeah. So I'm seeing the industrialization of that area, okay? And that means there's going to be job creation. And the fish farm too in Buguma. If we can reactivate those things, of course.
Is the reason palm still functional?
I think that has been sold out.
Wow.
It's now SIAT, right? So it's now SIAT. It's
all right, to move on from all of those, and the Federal High Court in Abuja on Thursday extended the December 15th interim order stopping the Independent National Electoral Commission and the People's Democratic Party from taking any actions against the 26 Rivers House of Assembly members who defected to the All Progressives Congress. Justice Donatus Okorowo extended the order following an application by counsel for the embattled lawmakers Steve Adehi and supported by Ken Njemanze, who appeared for the Rivers House of Assembly. Although PDP's lawyer Adeyemi Ajibade opposed the application, Justice Okorowo agreed that based on Order 26 Rule 10 of the FHC, the court had the discretionary power to grant the plea in the interests of justice. The judge held that he was persuaded by the reasons given by Adehi and Njemanze had granting the order, and granting the order would be better in the interest of justice. Okorowo, who adjourned the matter until January 24th for hearing of the application, said application for the extension of the order of the lifespan of the ex parte order pending the hearing and determination of motion on notice is hereby granted. Now, what that invariably also does is that it maintains a
Status quo.
semblance of status quo in the state. With calls, well, let me not say calls, in part of the 8-point agenda, or agreement, as it were, was that the governor resubmit the 2024 budget to the 32. That includes the 26 or 27, whose legitimacy is in court. Where does that leave Rivers State in the scheme of things? Are we moving forward, or we are stalemate?
Well, one of the points in that resolution was that parties will withdraw their suits. And this suit filed at the Federal High Court was initiated by the 27. So I wonder why they haven't withdrawn that suit, if in the spirit of that resolution. They ought to have shown fit, if they really believe in that resolution itself, that is what it is. They ought to have shown us by example that they are committed to keeping that resolution by first withdrawing that suit. Meaning that they know the implication of withdrawing that suit. Withdrawing that suit would mean that, look, their status has been sealed, their fate has been sealed. Because that's what they went to court to determine their status as whether they are still members of the House of Assembly or not. That issue has not been resolved. Now, don't also forget that their seats have officially been declared vacant.
Right.
By the present Speaker of the House of Assembly. That position remains the law until the court sets it aside. So that's what the status quo is. The status quo does not mean they are going back to the House of Assembly. The status quo is that, look, our seats have been declared vacant by the House of Assembly. We are battling to get our seats. You use the word embattle. We are battling to get our seats back. That's why we're in court. So the status quo remains at that level until the court determines one way or the other. And I can tell you that the issue of resubmission of the budget to the State House of Assembly is a constitutional anathema. It is something that is not doable in law. And I don't see the governor of the state towing that path of encouraging that kind of massive constitutional breach, because it's beyond Rivers State.
Let's take a quick look at some of the developing issues from this Rivers State crisis. One, like you said, it was at the eve of the relaunching of the Kelsey Harrison, the Garrison hospital and the Shanghai farm and all of those things, that the Nekorobo secondary schools and all of that the whole thing was blown out of proportion. If meeting, remember, for this was had at about 8th of December, that was when they had this meeting of the 8-point directive was given. And on the 15th of that December, the 26 lawmakers had to go to court to say our seats are not vacant. While Fubara was expected to hold down his own part of the bargain, you went to court to hold back yours. First thing they did was they withdrawn the impeachment process. Second thing they did was they went to court, I think that same Thursday, that same week. Fubara's lawyer said he doesn't have a directive from his clients to withdraw the matter. Yes. And these people looking at that had to go back to court to protect themselves. The president's intervention was a major part of the drama that unfolded in two major states. Unfortunately, one has become clear that this man was literally sick and at a terminal stage with prostate cancer, whom he passed on 2 days ago. You bring that back to his intervention in Rivers State. This intervention and all that has come to the fore, because clearly Fubara doesn't seem to be yielding. He sounds like he is, but he's not yielding. There are several court cases against him, and the president that is against yielding to those rules. We now come back to the president's issue on those states. The people said, the Constitution said, Aiyedatiwa should be the governor. The president jettisoned what the Constitution said and did what he wanted. It finally kept him as acting governor. And finally, the law has taken its place. Nature and the law. But the concern we have with President Tinubu's intervention in all of this is the people he seemed to be calling to Aso Rock to intervene, as our Rivers elders will say, you interfered. We asked for intervention and you interfered. Is it now necessary, seeing that in Rivers State particularly, the governor, it sounds like he is yielding, but he's not. The Nyesom Wike and his lawmakers sounds like they are yielding, but they are not from this court case. Is it not necessary for the president to continue to interfere, like the Rivers elders have said? We don't need you to interfere. If you cannot intervene, step aside. Is it not necessary for him to continue to do this?
The problem with the presidential intervention is not that in and of itself it's a bad idea. I think any responsible president seeing that there's a build-up of events in any part of the country that could escalate into an open crisis has a responsibility to intervene. But that intervention has to be within the ambit of constitutionality. The problem here is that what the president has done in Rivers, as in the case of Ondo, was clearly at variance with the spirit of the Constitution, and that's why people are complaining. So, for example, in Ondo, you're saying that a deputy governor should sign an undated resignation letter as some kind of insurance that he wouldn't step out of the bounds of the terms of an agreement that clearly enshackled him. So, I mean, I wonder how that sits with the Constitution. It seems to me that the president is not availing himself of the wealth of legal expertise around him. His chief of staff is a lawyer. His attorney general is one of the best the best, most senior and best members of the bar. Why is he not availing himself of or is it that he discards the advice, or perhaps for some reasons they give him the kind of advice that he wants to hear? I don't get it. So it gives me reasons to worry. There is another crisis brewing in Benue, and the faction has called for the president to intervene. That's the faction supposedly led by the president's, the secretary to the government of the federation. So we are seeing Rivers 2.0 about to take place in Benue. So my fear, as I expressed in my last appearance here, is that perhaps without knowing it, we are gradually setting ourselves up for what I have called an imperial presidency.
Exactly.
A president that has absolutely no limits at all.
I was just going to ask you that right now. Are we looking at, I've used the word mafia state, but someone said maybe that's an extreme thing to say right now, but jettisoning the Constitution of Nigeria, deciding what you want that is pleasing to you.
You know, it's quite unfortunate that Tinubu was one of those people who fought to entrench present democratic dispensation when he was in Nadeko. Fighting alongside. Is
he still not a member?
Well,
Nadeko doesn't exist anymore.
Okay, Nigeria.
No, it exists.
It exists in the US.
Yes, it exists. They are one of the groups in was the US.
Yes, US
came up last year and disclaimed Tinubu. You know.
But he hasn't said he's not a member.
He hasn't said he's not a member. But the truth is that we're antecedents. I'm just looking at the path of history, the role he played during the June 12 crisis, and how he deployed resources and put himself, his life, his businesses on the line to entrench the present democratic era which we find ourselves. And it's quite ironic that this same man is the one who we're talking about like this. It's quite unfortunate that Tinubu seems to, his body language suggests tyranny, suggests a man who will not have respect for the rule of law. It suggests a man who's not a sticker for the true ideals of democracy which he himself preached and held out himself for which he was able to draw people to himself, and he was able to carve a niche for himself in Lagos State. Some of those things that he suffered during Obasanjo's administration were the things he himself right now seen to be encouraging and driving personally by himself. Well, if it were people, if he had stood aloof and allowed his lieutenants to be doing this dirty job, it would have been, we would have had some excuse to say, okay, the man doesn't support it. Maybe the people around him are the ones who are trying to tarnish his image. But he has brought himself out physically in front of these constitutional breaches. It's an attempt to overthrow the Constitution.
All right.
If we had a viable legislature, some of these things that the president has been involved with are impeachable. These are things that should see him leave the office immediately.
Well, if we had a viable legislature, but we had a legislature that pledged
that sings
to do whatever the president. Okay.
They start.
Now, speaking of governance, if you may, Edo State House of Assembly Speaker, Right Honorable Blessing Agwe Baku, explains the reason why the budget for the Deputy Governor's Office in the 2024 appropriation bill was slashed to about 345 million naira, while that of the Secretary to the State Government ahead of service orders are higher. He claims that not much responsibility is attached to the Deputy Governors in the new year because of his governorship ambition. So in a chat with journalists, Agwe Baku said, unlike the other offices, like the SSG, Head of Service, and others, the office of the Governor and the Deputy Governor are the same. It is not only in this year's budget, even in previous years, that is how it has been. On this occasion, the Governor stated clearly that since the Deputy Governor has not performed his functions in the outgoing year because of his aspiration, which he recognized to be a huge one and time-consuming, most of his functions were relocated to the other offices as the Governor has the powers to do so. All of us know that the Deputy Governor doesn't have constitutional powers bestowed on him, except that which is allocated to him by the governor. So most of those things that the Deputy Governor used to do, the Governor has removed from him. He has even gone on media to complain that he is no longer working. If you're not doing work, who will not give you money? The money is not allotted to you as a personal gift. It is given for work. So if you are not working, naturally the money will not come, and there is no way you can be working effectively when you are pursuing that ambition. So we are talking about a year where the most part of it, almost 11 months, will be on electionary. So how are you now going to function properly as a Deputy Governor? In his magnanimity, the Governor has said, I don't want to be a stumbling block on your ambition on your route to becoming Governor. So you should have your time to pursue your ambition to fruition. So to that extent, he said, okay, I'm not going to give you too much function. So if you're not giving too much function, then not much money will be given to you. Now, a quick retrospect into these both parties. You will discover that this power tussle between these two men has been going on for quite some time. I want to quickly start with you from here on Alabo. When you say that Deputy Governor's office is not a constitutionally recognized office, that's a speaker.
No. That's not correct.
They run, sometimes...
It's constitutionally, it's constitutionally recognized. The issue is that the function is different from recognition.
No, we're coming to that. If that office is constitutionally recognized, and the speaker is saying, because you have an interest, the governor decides to pull out funds, where in the law is that recognized?
See, this reminds me of President Obasanjo and Atiku. You remember that era, So it's a constitutional mind game that is playing out, because the way the Constitution is crafted, it gives the governor nearly absolute powers to control and manage the affairs of governance in the states. In fact, if you even see the wordings of the Constitution regarding the office of the Deputy Governor and the Vice President, it puts it at the pleasure and at the mercy of the CEO, the chief, the President, and the Governor. It says the function shall be as determined by the Governor. So the Governor can decide to say, okay, you have no function.
Okay, so that's why they said his magnanimity, gave him 300 and something.
Yeah, because it's at the pleasure of the governor. The deputy governor is not more than a commissioner. The vice president is not more than a minister.
Is this...
By the way the constitution has drafted it. So,
so why are you giving him 300 and something?
The issue of finance here is also to be determined by the chief security officer of the governor of the state. There is no constitutional allocation for the office of the deputy
So this 300
governor.
and something million is a gift to him to use for his campaign, because that's the only responsibility you said he has.
Well, I'm even wondering what the responsibilities of the deputy governor were that have been shifted to the other offices as contained in this statement that now pushes up the budgets allocated to these offices and the office of the deputy governor. Seeing that the office of the deputy governor doesn't have any particular function, as it were.
Clearly defined one.
Depends on what the governor assigns
usually
to that office.
what most governors do.
So what does the office of the governor, deputy governor actually do? What does the governor usually assign to the deputy governor to handle before this impasse? You understand the question? I mean, like, what were the assignments usually given to the deputy governor that have now been taken away from him and handed to the SSG and now affected the budgetary allocation? I'm just wondering.
But since those functions are given at the pleasure of the governor, I expect that the governor will be the one most suited to provide an answer to this question. But for me, I'm looking at it beyond the legal side to all this. I think that it would have been better for the reputation of Honorable Blessing Agbebaku if he had refrained from rationalizing this action, because the rationale provided here flies in the face of reason clearly. I mean, the question to ask is this. By its same logic, we should assume that whenever a governor is seeking re-election, the allocation to his office would be reduced. Because once he's seeking re-election, it will mean that, yes, he's distracted from governance, and functions that ordinarily would have been performed will be, you know, delegated to others. So funds that should go to his office should then go to those offices that perform those actions. I think what we are doing here is that perhaps with the best of intentions in the world, we are trying to criminalize ambition. Well, let me put it on record. I'm not from Edo State, but I don't support Deputy Governor Philip Shaibu's ambition, because I believe that in a state that has ethnic diversity like Edo, there has to be some sort of balance. He comes from the same community as Adams Oshomole. Oshomole had done 8 years as governor, and then after those 8 years, he became, I mean, they are virtually cousins, if not brothers. And then after 8 years of Oshomole's governorship, he's done deputy governor for 8 years. There's a part of the state that hasn't tasted the governorship for a long while now. That part of the state should be allowed to taste the governorship. That's the extent to which I say that I do not support his ambition. But that's not to say that you should do. I mean, at this point, we are talking about the office now, not the individual. And let's not forget that, I mean, at a time when Governor Baseki was having some problems within the APC, if Philip Shaibu had decided to sell out, the APC would have embraced him and would have used him as an insider to create disaffection. So it's a relationship that has been mutually beneficial to both of them. I think it's sad that they're allowing that relationship to end as sadly as it seems to be ending now, where the State Assembly would decide to, you know, underfund the office of Deputy Governor, ostensibly because he's seeking.
I know they gave him a 345 million gifts for his governorship.
No, I don't want to be that sarcastic.
That's what he said. He should appreciate it. Anyway, because of our time, let's quickly touch on the Plateau State as much as we can. But before we get into the latest, let's start from a bit of a retrospect. You will recall that one of the major campaign promises made during the electioneering as then governorship candidate of Plateau State was, Caleb Mutfwang, was to tackle insecurity in the state. Now, Governor Mutfwang, then the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, particularly promised to end killings in Plateau if elected. He also promised to ensure that all communities displaced by terrorists would return to their ancestral homes. 7 months on, nothing concrete is seen on ground. Well, the people are expecting something concrete for the man they voted for. Guess what? On Plateau killings, Governor Motfang is crying to Tinubu for help. Plateau State Governor Caleb Mutfwang says the killings in the state must be brought to an end, as he already cried out to President Bola Tinubu to fish out the killers and bring the slaughtering to a permanent end. In a statement on his X, he first of all thanked Tinubu for being magnanimous enough to send the VP to quickly come to the state's aid and all of that. And then he's telling the president of Nigeria, you are the chief security officer. At a point when your governorship ambition is hanging on the thread, because the Supreme Court decision can quash that at any time, when the people expect you to live up to your campaign promise, what did you do as a governor? Failing on your campaign promise, you are going to the governor. You left Plateau State at the heat. This was December 24th December. You joined other governors to go pay homage to Tinubu in Lagos State. When people are asking you, like Action Aid is saying, give account of this, fish these people out. What exactly is this man crying to Tinubu for? Is it Tinubu that will come and figure out who the bandits are? Is it Tinubu that will ensure that those who have been displaced find a better place to rest? Is it Tinubu that will ensure that the community, the local LGAs where this happened, that the 195 people are properly identified and then meetings are held, questions are asked? What exactly is he crying to Tinubu to do for him exactly?
Well, I don't want to believe that the people of Plateau State voted for him because of that promise. Because if they did that, then they have themselves to blame for taking that. Well, the question should have been, how would you do all of these things given that you are supposedly the chief security officer of the state, but the commissioner of police is not even answerable to you. You don't have troops that you control. And there is no, I mean, in Plateau State, we don't have the equivalent of the Amotekun in the southwest. So how was he supposed to do that?
Who is stopping him from setting up an Amotekun?
Of course, we also know the crisis that followed the setting up of Amotekun.
The governors of
Remember that Amotekun is also a regional, I mean, a geopolitical zonal arrangement, not a state arrangement.
The governors agreed to that.
Oh, sure. So
what we are asking is 7 months. This is like the biggest hit under him.
No, what I'm reluctant to do is to at this point begin to blame the governor. I am trying to understand the situation. The president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. We have troops stationed in and around Plateau State. This is not the first time. These things happen about this time. If it's not Kaduna, it's Benue. If it's not Benue, it's Plateau. I mean, proactive thinking would have averted this kind of thing.
I'll come back to you real quick. This Governor Caleb has been receiving security votes since he came into office. Are you saying, if we're going by what NA is, are you saying that you don't know where these bandits are? You don't know how to get them. You don't know how to meet with their leaders. You don't know how to identify them. If that is the case, how are you sitting as the chief security officer of the state? I understand he doesn't have control over the security agencies and all of that. But what about the locals who, after this attack, they sent a letter notifying them that they are coming for another attack.
I was going to go there.
Okay,
yeah,
I'll just leave that to you,
these people were here they were on ground for over 48 hours, over 2 days on ground, to the knowledge of the security operatives in Plateau State and force the NHQ in Abuja. The intelligence were out there that this was going on. So for me, much as we know that the principal objective of governance is for protection of lives and properties, no one is excusable when these things happen. You cannot excuse the governor. You cannot, the buck stops at his table as the chief security officer of the state, whether he promised it or not, whether it was part of his campaign slogan or not. He takes responsibility for what is going on in Plateau State. But having said that, it brings to mind again the need for us to rejig our security apparatus, not just in Plateau State, all around the country. The argument for state police is back again on the fore. We should begin to revisit that argument of gathering of intelligence by locals and then collaborating with the security agencies to forestall what we have just seen in Plateau State. Because today is Plateau State, it may be another state tomorrow. The people were caught, off guard. They were not prepared for this. But if we have this thing, semblance of these things happening in the north, where you have the civilian JTF integrated into the armed forces, they work hand in hand, they gather intelligence, and we have seen how far that has helped the Nigerian military to push back on insurgents in the northern part of Nigeria. So I would have expected that people who have been so vulnerable to these attacks in the past, particularly Plateau State, should have imbibed that strategy and created something like that for their own protection. Of course, we know that the security system has been over-centralized over the years, you understand, and we're trying to see how to plead with our people in the National Assembly to see what they can do to decentralize, at least the police. Decentralize the police. Let's localize our security. If we localize our security, we may not be able to stop it 100%, but we will reduce it to the barest minimum.
Well, a few days after the attacks happened, the governor came out to say that it's high time the locals armed themselves and defended themselves. Sounds like what the Benue State governor did last year when there was that slaughter. And yesterday, it's all over. Virtually all the national dailies carried it, that these bandits have sent out a message to some more communities. We are coming for you. The question is, what is the commander of Operation Safe Haven doing about it? Because previously, he said the terrain was too difficult for them to get to. So the question is, how did the bandits get there? Now, in regard of the governor, I'm also asking, we are all aware that he doesn't have the commanding power of the Nigerian armed forces, which is probably why he's asking the president to intervene. But then again, what kind of relationship does he also have with the heads of the security apparatus in Plateau State? I mean, what makes governance easy? In my opinion, I think it's relationships with these people. Seeing that he doesn't have these powers, and seeing that it appears the Nigerian army is not eager to respond as quickly as they ought to, or we wish they would.
Yeah, because this was for 48 hours.
What then does he do? What then does the Plateau State governor do? What can he do actually?
Well, I think it's a demonstration of his helplessness that he has run to the president to seek succor. Because in this instance, the president, those who command, or the sector commanders in the field, are answerable to the president. They are answerable to the chief of defense staff, the chief of army staff, or the National Security Office, the National Security Advisor, and the heads of the different arms of the armed forces. So, I mean, that would explain why he has gone to them. Now, we have to be careful about resorting to self-help in this instance. Saying, oh yeah, of course, it's a proper thing. It's a desperate situation, and so desperate situation call for desperate measures. But we are going, if we are not too careful, while trying to solve one problem, we could create another one. Just one example before I cede the floor. Remember the Bakassi phenomenon in the Southeast in the early days of this republic, and how it ended, how they suddenly became a private army for some governors, they became merchants of extrajudicial murder. So let's try not to create that kind of problem while we are trying to solve a bigger problem.
Anyway, thank you, gentlemen, for being part of Atlantic Blowout. Clearly, there's no end to any news. There's no end to the issues on hand. I just want to say thank you, Alabo Eugene Ode. It's been an honor hosting you on the last Friday on Atlantic Blowout.
Thanks for having me, Vivian.
And thank you, Eric Iwifa. It's been a good run with you this year on the show. Thank you, too, for being here.
Thank you very much, Vivian. Thank you, Kingsley. Compliments of the season
to you. We'll see you all next year.
And